Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm just going to jump right in because I know one of our students has to leave very soon, so we want to make sure we just have a last minute appointment. So I want to thank you all for attending. My name is Sean Dunwoody and Suzanne Mayer, both connected with founders of Hinge Neighbors, and we'd like to thank you this afternoon for joining us, all of you here, being part of this conversation. It's been a great a couple of weeks working with Mr. Flagler and Miss Hunton. Did I say it right this time? Huntoon. That's it. I had to look at my notes. It's been fantastic. It's been an amazing job to work with these students who have volunteered their time. This is actually volunteer work because they care about the future, and they care about their school, and they care about the neighborhood, and they care about the city of Rochester. So this is very important. These are going to be the folks that are going to be living, working, and breathing in this new Rochester to be created along the interlude. So it's great to get their input and take on what's happening. So I want to thank all of you for being here. Superintendent, I want to thank you for joining this. It's very important. Thank you for being here. Bergmann's team, we thank you for being here as well. I'm going to just say their names and the names of which they should, students can address themselves and introduce themselves, and then I'll let them take it from there. So first off, speaking will be Hafi, and then we'll just transfer it over to the next student, please.
Yeah, I'm happy. I just worked on the youth. I live in Rochester and go to World of Inquiry School. And I thought we could make it better. And I was thinking about youth zones in the food. So I came up with ideas for those.
Thank you for that. How about May?
Hi, I'm Rita T, and I've been going to World Inquiry for 10 years.
Did everyone catch that there? You might have to turn your camera off for that when you did things, babe. It works to sound better. Anaya, could you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, my name is Anaya Simmons. I am a junior at World of Inquiry, which I have been attending since 4th grade. I'm very interested in this project because I want to create the nice high school environment.
Justice.
Hi, everybody. My name is Justice Robinson. I've been going to school for about 7 years now, and I joined this project so that we could just make our community and our school just an overall better place to be.
Thank you. Kasim.
Hi, my name is Kasim. I'm a senior at World of Inquiry. I've been going to it since kindergarten. And one reason why I want to do this project is, even though I'm not going to be at the school by the time this project finishes, I would like to leave something substantial for like the other kids that's going in to have something to enjoy and just, have like sort of like a legacy, be part of something that's going to impact the community.
Thank you very much. And Nadia.
Hi, I'm Nadia Lewis, and I've been going to World of Inquiry since I was in kindergarten, and I joined the project because I want to help make our community a better place.
Thank you. And Mr. Flagler and Mrs. Hunton, if you'd like to say a few words of why you brought these wonderful students together.
I'm James Flagler. I teach middle school social studies at World of Inquiry. This is my 4th year teaching in the RCSD. And this was a project that intrigues me because community space building for all stakeholders in the community is something that's important to me. It's important into what I bring into the classroom. And this is really social studies coming alive. So I wanted to make social studies a real thing for some of our students at World of Inquiry. And it doesn't get any more real than this, right?
Agreed. I'm Sarah Huntone. I teach high school English at World of Inquiry. Goodness, age myself. Been in the district for a long time. And I was really excited about this project because I like when there's opportunities for students to share their voices in an authentic way. So getting them involved in thinking about what they'd like to see, both for their school and the greater Rochester community, I think is a really valuable opportunity. So I've been really excited to work on this.
Thank you so very much for your time and energy on this. I really appreciate that. And of course, Suzanne, could you please chime in with a few words as well?
Well, this has been a terrific experience. I think these, first of all, I was amazed at how excited these students were and the teachers. And I want to say specifically that they all did this outside of school. So it's all been voluntary. And so we've talked, a little bit, they had to get used to us. And so it's easy to get used to Sean, but like this. And so they've been very welcoming and opened their minds and hearts to learning about what this Interloop Project North was. So we've asked the Bergmans to come and to talk. So maybe Kim, you could introduce yourself, and then from that we have a couple of city people on a project who will also introduce themselves, and then we'll go on with the presentation.
Sure. Thanks, Suzanne. And thank you to Suzanne and Sean and all the students and teachers for inviting us to listen in on this afternoon's presentation. I know, as you may know, students, Bergmann was hired by the city to facilitate the Interloop North transformation study. And we are about to, in the new year, embark on the identification of alternatives. So we're really excited to hear what you have to say this afternoon and how that might influence how we start thinking about the project as we move forward into the design phases. So I'm an urban planner. I've been with Bergmann for just over 13 years here in the Rochester office, and then share your excitement for this particular project and how it could really change the landscape of downtown Rochester. So with that, I'll hand it over to Mark McEnany, who's the project manager on behalf of Bergmann.
Good afternoon. And I echo Kimberly's statements. I'm excited. I love fresh ideas. We're just about to embark on the alternative development for this study area, for this corridor. And any fresh ideas that come from you, and we're welcoming them, because I bet you there'll be some great things we move forward into our study from today's conversation. I'm an engineer, and I've been working with Bergmann and working on City of Rochester assignments similar to this for 37 years. Each one of them is different. Each one of them brings its own set of challenges, but none are more exciting than the opportunity we have with this corridor to transform it and make it a better place for the community moving forward. So this is a great challenge and something we welcome, and we're looking forward to your input. Thank you.
How about someone, Eric, if you'd like to chime in, and then Darren?
I'd be happy to jump in. Hi, everyone. I'm Eric Frisch. I'm manager of special projects for the City of Rochester in the Department of Environmental Services. And I am the city's project manager for the Interloop North Transformation Planning Study. And I was very heavily involved in the Interloop East project that came before this. And I'm really excited to see what we do and on the rest of the corridor. I also will note that I'm a proud former parent of World of Inquiry School students. My son Oscar and my daughter Cecilia went to World of Inquiry up until this past year. Unfortunately, they moved to Florida, but Justice, Oscar says hi. I already let him know that you're on the call, so that's pretty cool. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you all have come up with. And I'll let my colleague Darren Ramsey introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. Thanks again for inviting us to your presentation. I'm really looking forward to seeing your ideas. I work at the city with Eric Frisch as a transportation specialist, and I am mostly involved in this project with the community advisory group. So I look forward to your presentations.
Thank you. And one last person I would like to put you on the spot, Dr. Myers here. If you could just chime in as to what interests you in coming to listen to these students' presentation.
There you go. Sorry, I was having some technical difficulties. Good afternoon. I think anytime that we have students involved in work that impacts the school or the community. I'm always interested to hear. My schedule is tight today, but I wanted to make sure that I spent as much time as I could just to listen. I do thank whomever put in the chat the presentation so I can review that. I'll probably have to cut out in about 20 or so minutes, but I'm just glad to be here and looking forward to seeing the impact that our students are have been making and will make on our school community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. And so on that note, I guess we'll begin our presentation. That starts with you, Meg, correct?
Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Okay. Should I? All right, begin.
Yes, right
here. The Hinge Neighborhood Project. This is a project that the students at World of Inquiry have been working on for the past couple of months with Suzanne Meyer and Sean Dunwoody, and it's been a pleasure with them. World of Inquiry is located on the corner of Scioto and University in the middle of the Hinge neighborhood. And it was renovated from 2011, and then we returned to our new campus in 2015. And although the inside is really nice now that it's been renovated, we don't have a lot of outdoor space to explore outside. The World of Inquiry, we were founded out of the racial tension in Rochester during July of 1964 to try and bring light the injustices in our city and in our country. And our school is designed to be a beacon of diversity, inclusion in the Rochester community, and it has continued to do so since the founding of the school. And we have a very diverse student body, K through 12, and I'm very fortunate to be a part of this school. We were created by a task force in the state education department called Cooperative Action in Urban Education. And our school originally opened in 1967 with 120 students. And today our school has over 800 students in K-12. And we are the only K-12 school in the Rochester City School District. And having gone there, kindergarten through 9th grade, the grade I am in currently, it's been a very unique experience because you kind of grow with the people around you and you can see the growth in your own character. And there's a lot of hands-on experiences that are unique solely to World of Inquiry.
We are an expeditionary learning school, which gives us a commitment to learning by doing and engaging in authentic learning experiences like this project here today. In current events, our 2017 graduate Ephraim Gibri has painted the I Am Speaking John Lewis mural on State Street.
Project overview. Inner Loop. Construction of the Inner Loop began in 1952 and was built in 5 sections over 13 years. Around this time, the city's population was 330,000, with no signs of growth slowing. Today, this is not the case. Rochester has a population today of 206,000, much less than in 1952. In fact, many research shows the highway corridor through the urban community contributing more harm than good. Listening to community. With this opportunity, the city of Rochester has given us, we can do a lot of great things with the space, like giving the city of Rochester diverse spaces or community engagement, or creating economic development. but the key is listening to what can be done to this space. Listening to leaders of the community, to leaders of our school. Listening can immensely impact the product in a great way. What's wrong with the experience at 58? School 58 is a great school. Great people, great teachers. But like every school, it has its flaws. School 58 is an island. We are disconnected from our community. I am a student athlete. I love sports and being outside. One thing I really enjoy. But our school doesn't have space where I can go outside and enjoy being with my friends. Or outside, play a pickup game of football. We have been given an opportunity where we can embrace being outside or even just taking a break from school. The World of Inquiry is not socially connected with our community. We partner with YMCA, but that is all I could think of. Like I said at the start, we are island, but we have options. The Eastman School of Music or music restaurants. My vision. My vision for this project is that people get to enjoy more space and that this space would bring our community together. This can make our school a better place to be at. I just hope that this project makes the community a better place to live in and be involved.
The chill zone. At our school, we see a lot of businesses and structured buildings in which winter does not do us any good. We would like to see large green spaces such as gardens and water like ponds, a place to make it not seem like we're surrounded by large industries, to see what the natural world in this city offers. Our school being as involved as it is with connecting its students to the natural world, this would be the perfect environment for us. In this chill zone, that slide, in this chill zone, we would like to see benches, maybe small fountains, flowers, plants, and possibly food. A nice garden where you could take a walk or sit and relax and read. A nice getaway from school. Next slide. Some local examples of what this could look like are MLK Park, Highland Park, the Maplewood Rose Garden, and the Laboratory Conservatory. Although places like MLK Park are close to the school, many students feel unsafe and staying there alone because of the fact that it is public and open to anyone in the community. We will cover more of this concern later in the presentation.
Youth zone. Students sometimes need a break from home, and spending 2 hours in a place where they can get comfort and real relaxation could help the students and have a more positive vision for the next day or even the hours right after they've spent relaxing. One of these spaces could be a spot for optional counseling or a rec center. Next slide. Students sometimes have difficulty in school, and the last thing they want is more stress. The best solution to this would be an after-school chill zone or workout space in which students can stay back for a little while after school and let everything go and take out their stress. Students can also be stressed by the fact that school doesn't stay in school, but also goes home. Schools assign online homework even though many students don't have access. The best solution to this is a computer lab or a space that students can use after school to finish any work they have.
Sports zone. At our school, we try and offer a range of sports since most students play them. But being in the inner city, we are bused out to other high schools to play the sports. This has its benefits, but as high schoolers, we are bothered by the cons. Students aren't able to stay after school unless you're studying or playing a sport. As previously said for the youth zone, we would like to change that. The sports zone would ideally, next slide. The sports zone would ideally look like a field near our school, which is able to host many sports like at Franklin, with a football field or soccer field inside of a track, more land for tennis courts and fields such as for baseball and softball. Next slide. Right now, many schools such as Franklin and East are where athletes are combined to go and play these sports. Having sports such as these would allow our school to have their own sports teams and more sense of pride in our school community. We'd finally be able to have average high school events such as homecoming. Public green space. These such places such as Genesee Valley Park, Highland Park, and MLK Park, we would like to see more. You may be asking why the students of World of Inquiry are asking for another public green space when we have MLK so close. But we are posing it as a question. The green spaces we are requesting are for these zones where we would like to do private events during the school week, but open to residents on the weekends. The issue of maintenance then becomes a factor, as if it's open to the community, who would be able to pick up the trash and litter that would eventually come as this arises in the weekends.
We'd also like a food service zone, because in our community we realized that there isn't a lot of places where we can get fresh, local, and organic food. Um, um, Food in areas where poverty is high and it's not the best quality. But if we have connections with local farmers, sort of like a mini public market near our school, we can fight these food deserts that surround our community. Um, and a small innovative garden, which doesn't take too much space, would be a good job. Great job. This could supply students with fresh food, but also teach them about healthy eating and engineering. And I also know from experience that we had a garden club at our school, but the route to take to get there was so convoluted, and having like a little garden space in our like general area would be very helpful for students who are interested in gardening and want to help impact the community.
Things for the community. Now that we have addressed what students would like to see, we also came up with a list of community ideas concerning what businesses are lined up, environmental effects, creative arts, and housing. Next slide. Okay. Rooftop gardens are a nice way to escape the daily hustle and bustle that us city residents are used to. It would be a nice way of conserving the inner city environment, and also be a nice way for local residents to get a new perspective of their local surrounding. To spice up the surrounding area, we suggest a makerspace. This place could be inside or out, a place for youth interested in designing arts. Helping design and produce murals, having a quiet space to write poems, and beginning digital media portfolios would increase student productivity in the area. Conservatories. This type of garden would be a nice way to conserve a garden during the harsh winters we usually have. These beauties would do inner city residents a world of fun, while having new places to study and being around flowers and plants during every season. Having unique opportunities for businesses and activities while walking around our school community would be ideal. Right now, we have lots of places to eat, like Wedman's and Morton Cereal Bar and Pop Shop, but we would like to have a wider selection of things to do and to eat. Although we have this selection, we would like more cultural shops. Right now, the only cultural shops around our school are Peppa Pot and Morgan Cereal Bar. We would like to have more businesses that appeal to our younger generations aesthetically and financially. Places like this are Ithaca Commons, Burlington, and Vermont, and ideally just what we would like to have. What we mean by this is having shops that are located so when we go down the street, we don't just go for exactly what we came for, we go on an adventure every time. We know and understand what Rochester offers, and the events and places that teenagers in Rochester are just not as known as they should be.
We want this to be for Rochesterians, not people who are outsiders with no investment in the greater community. Multi-income housing. We want people living from diverse cross-section in the Rochester population. We also want people to feel ownership with the project in the community.
And I just want to thank these took countless hours out of their days and over the past couple months, staying on Zoom meetings after being on Zoom meetings all day to contribute to something that's greater than themselves. So I want to shout out all these students who spent their time and effort working hard on this.
Agreed. Well done, guys.
Thank you once again, everyone, for doing it. I want to open up. Are there any questions for the students? Please, does anyone have a question for these guys? They did an excellent job, and I really want to applaud them and say this excellent work. For your students, do you have any questions for some of these decision makers in the room, folks from Bergmann, folks from the city? Do you have questions of them?
I'll start. I'm just curious. You mentioned the multi-income housing. Could you talk a little bit more about that? What does that look like? Is it townhouses, apartments? Just curious.
I can answer that question. Well, the reason that I think multi-income housing is important is because everyone benefits from having a diverse neighborhood and people from all walks of life. And even if we could have apartment buildings where each level could maybe be a different amount of rent, or some have subsidized housing, but also making sure that houses are maintained, and we have landlords with good ethics who are willing to put in time and work to make sure that the community that we're living in is a great space for everyone, regardless of income.
Follow-up question to that. I don't know if it would be to Maeve or others, but how would you see the district, particularly students, participating in the development of that? Like, I'm always interested in school to career opportunities or internships. So how might you see students be actively involved in that multi-housing project?
This is Kimberly. This might be a good segue, and I can chime in real quick here. And hopefully all these students have actually already heard about this opportunity, but through this project, we have identified the opportunity to create a number of student internships at Bergmann, to work directly not only on the Interloop North transformation study over really the course of the spring semester, but also creating an opportunity to expose any students with interest in the fields of architecture, engineering, urban planning, landscape architecture. So really creating, two distinct opportunities, giving them the opportunity to further contribute specifically on this project, but also again, providing that exposure to a Rochester-based employer and some future career options. So hopefully all of the students on the call have had the opportunity to learn more about that. If not, I'd be happy to follow up with you, any of you individually. But I would like to just say that was a great presentation, and all of you were very eloquent and well-spoken, and I am sure that I could not speak or present that well when I was a high schooler. So thanks to all of you. You guys did a great job.
Hi, this is John. I'm on the Hinge board. John Rodriguez, longtime Rochesterian community activist. I have a question for the students. Two-part question for you. Through this experience, and by the way, I really love the presentation, especially all the visuals. Two-part question. What advice do you have for us in terms of things you think we should continue to do as we engage students and young people? And the second part of that is there anything you think we should avoid, we shouldn't be doing when we engage students for their input?
I think, like I said, like listening is very key part to that. So all students have a important opinion, take everything into consideration, because as you gain more and more information, you'll get more and more ideas. And as you keep listening, there'll be a bunch of different ideas across the board of what you will listen to and what you will see as you go to other students and see what their opinions would be with that. Also, with your second part of the question, like something I would avoid is, as you work on this project and as you go on this project, I would avoid trying to like we said, like the multi-income housing, like the housing could raise if the inner loop gets developed and as that corridor gets developed. So as that goes on, housing could go up. So I would try and avoid. I would try and take in consideration like the multi-housing, make sure that housing doesn't rise and that people have to move out of the city because of this corridor loop that's being filled.
I can piggyback off of what Justice said. I think often we think of public speaking as a very important skill, but also public listening is also very important. And I think not only listening to students in the Hinge neighborhood, but also listening to community members and remembering that we don't want a city that makes money. We want a city where people can thrive and have cultural experiences and meet people from all walks of life.
I also think, to piggyback off of Maeve and Justice, that this should be a learning opportunity for both you all and us. I think there's a lot students can bring to the table and a lot that you can help us promote to the next table that we go to. And with this needs to be a mutual connection that we share. This cannot be a simply, this is how it's going to go. What are your feedback on it? I think this should be, so this is what we're thinking. And how do you feel about that? What suggestions would you like to have? Okay, let's move forward. How would we get these suggestions to go forward? One way to really promote that mutual relationship that I'm talking about is if you have like a youth committee or something, making sure that that youth committee is not just one subgroup of a committee. What I mean by this is if you have multiple committees, let's say you have the environmental part of this, you have the financial part of this, making sure that youth committees are involved in each section of this, because some students are not just, here's an overall feedback of it. There are specific problems within each section that need to be addressed, and having generational advice for that would be vital.
I have a question. Thank you. I'm Jean Strezabasco. I live downtown. I'm in the Grove Place neighborhood, and I think you did an amazing job. And I love what you just said about, youth committees and not being this separate island, but being on the boards. So my question is, are there permanent youth members of your Hinge neighborhood, the Hinge neighborhood group? And are there other boards where, you could sit, and not just one, but a couple of you, so you have some solidarity together at a table?
I'll address that from an Hinge perspective. This is something we have been talking about. This is kind of our first introduction of getting young people, these younger future Rochesterians, thinking about the neighborhood and developing that. So from this, to create to put the person on our board and help guide us so that we can have that direction, because I'm not connected to that energy any longer. So it's great to have their connections. So this is where we wanted to do this, so that way they do become advisors and connected to Bergmann. And Eric can hit up an eye and be like, hey, I got an idea. Why don't you get their group? It's these kind of things to understand that young people do have this voice, and they do have insight, and they are going to be the future for whom we're planning for. So I applaud any further movements to adding a youth council or youth agreement, and I'm just pointing that at Bergmann or the city of Rochester.
We think also that youth help bring us together. Then we would want this presentation to go on the road, to go to Market View Heights neighborhood. There's a group association, the Center for Equity at Lewis Street, Grove Place. And we think that's a really good way of introducing networking for students and for the community to listen to our youth, because they're really terrific.
Yeah, I might just say, I'm Tom Mitchell, and thank you for inviting me, Suzanne. Very good presentation, and I'm even more impressed with some of the follow-up comments and questions. Just curious, even though it's not complete, I was just curious about your reaction to and opinion of the development that has taken place on the East Inner Loop. What you've seen there, what you understand is going to be put in place there, how that fits into your plans, and what reaction have you had to that?
Any of you students want to take an answer at that? What you've seen develop so far on the new fill of the inner loop? How do you feel about that? Is it something that you're excited to see when you stroll by? Do you even go that way? Do you stroll in that neighborhood? And if you do, why? And if you don't, why haven't you? Why don't you go that way? Is there anything that you feel inviting to go to the other side of the interloop?
Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry, it cut out for a moment.
Yes, just was curious about your reaction to and your opinion of the development that has taken place in the East Interloop. You know, with the housing that's there, with some of the plans, and it's not all complete, but some of the plans for some retail, for some commercial type development. If what you've seen and how you could see something like that fit into portions of the North development.
I actually do have some critique for that. I think we're building a lot of apartment buildings, which are great. We do need more housing in the city because we do have a lot of homeless populations in Rochester. I think the type of housing that you're building isn't for the city residents who are part of the homeless community, though. I think it's more gentrification than anything else. You're bringing in people who are able to pay large amounts of money for nice accessories and housing to be exactly in the inner city, when we have residents who have grown here their entire lives, but who are now being pushed out because they cannot afford the same housing that other people can. I think there needs to be some sort of reduced price housing to really address this issue, because this is beyond just us and local. This needs to be more important and taken seriously.
Thanks, Anaya. I'll just point out, this is Eric from the city. I'll just say I know that this is a gentrification and displacement has been recognized as a real issue that we're going to do our best to develop strategies for, both working with Hinge and with our community advisory committee on developing strategies to minimize and prevent gentrification and displacement in the neighborhoods where development's taking place and that are influenced by whatever ultimately happens with the Interloop North. And I just want to also note, I very much appreciate your comments on Interloop East. And a lot of people don't realize that more than half of the units that are being developed as part of Interloop East are actually below market rate housing. And a lot of that are targeted to specific groups such as people living with AIDS, or recently rehabilitated, I don't know what the word, released from prison, or other groups that are housed within some of the buildings that are being built, and it's spurring other development in the area as well, such as a building that's been proposed in association with the ARC of Monroe County. So there's a lot of things going on. The buildings look really great and look really fancy, and that's actually a great thing, right? Is that we can build brand new buildings that they don't appear to be, public housing or housing for the poor. They are housing, the good housing for human beings, right? And that's what we're hoping to do, is to create a neighborhood that reflects the diversity of incomes and peoples in the city of Rochester. So I hope we continue to do that on Interloop North and more.
Excuse me, Eric. Would you mind explaining market rate? One of the things we talked about initially with these young students was understanding language. So they created their own language. Said, we want a chill zone, our sports zone. You just threw some vocabulary in there that I don't quite understand. Can you explain that so we all are on the same page and learning from one another?
Sure. Yeah. So good point, Sean. Thank you. So when I say market rate, that's a sort of a industry term that developers use to say if something is a market rate, that means that it's not priced at an affordable rate, meaning that it's what that they produce a unit that is not a subsidy. It's not a subsidized housing development. It's something that the general marketplace would pay into based on rents that you would expect to find in a building and in a neighborhood such as that. Whereas when I say below market rate, I mean that those are units that are in some way either subsidized or targeted to specific groups. So there are things that are, say, 90% below AMI, which is adjusted median income, which again, this is jargon and things, but the point is it's 90% below the median income for our community, meaning that people who earn significantly less than the median income can qualify to live in those.
I'd like to ask a question regarding employment for our students in the Rochester City School District in terms of retail businesses that are going up and hopefully having more businesses that are owned by Black and Brown people. How are we able to, how can we make sure that we partner with these new businesses and make sure our kids get jobs here?
Oh, that's a great question. And I've actually been working with Bob Duffy and his team to figure out how we can fortify the partnerships between the district and the business community. And really the goal is to make sure that it is a symbiotic relationship. So certainly students are going to gain experience by working at a business, and hopefully it will strengthen their interest in maybe a particular career or a particular field. But we also want to make sure that our employers are supportive of our students and that they are not assigning them hours that are, unreasonable or outside the, or during the school day, because we found that to happen. And that even we work on a common set of expectations that are known between the district and between the business community. The other piece is that we want to make sure that transportation is not a barrier. So we're really trying to figure out the different zones that exist in our community so students can gain access to those places. And in the businesses would either be in proximity to the school or where the student lives. And so, we started those conversations probably about 2 months ago. So we're just working on creating a proposal and finalizing that. But that's something I'm very, very interested in, because we know that many of our students are going to go off to college, but some of our students are going to go straight to work. And we want to make sure that if they go straight to work from graduating from high school, that it is work that is meaningful, that it is work that is in an area that they're interested in, and it's not just, paying the bills or providing support. So that's the other piece, that we want to make sure that we diversify that work portfolio so that our scholars can have a wide variety of opportunities that go from part-time work to potentially full-time work. And so, maybe I went a little bit longer, but that's an area that we are very, very interested in. And it's so much to the point that we want to work back to our secondary schools and figure out, are there pods or areas that we can develop in the schools where students are getting that training in addition to their academics, so they are thoroughly prepared to go straight from high school into the job. And that, again, that these are really good paying jobs for them to not just survive, but to thrive. So that's something that we're looking at. Does that answer your question, Gina?
Yeah, it really, I'm thinking from, I teach over at Northeast now, but having that idea of cooperative economics and making sure that it's thriving, it's real authentic work that students are learning.
Mm-hmm. That's a main principle, when you think about the Kwanzaa principle. Right. Yep. Kuji Chakalia. So absolutely. We call it the Kuji Chakalia project, right?
There you go.
Hello, this is John again. I have another question for the students. What do you think, what do you like, and what don't you like about the part of the inner loop that's been filled in so far between around Main Street and Monroe Avenue alongside? So the question is, what do you like about what you've seen so far, and what don't you like about what you've seen so far? In terms of what's already been built there.
So from what I've seen, like the apartment buildings, it can sometimes feel like we're building houses to make way for the roads instead of, you want the houses to have safe streets and in residential areas. And they've felt not as residential, some of the apartments I've seen. And another thing too, I feel like it's lacking in green space. And in this kind of urban jungle setting, you want to make sure there's places for people to access without having to pay or anything, to just have green space. Yeah.
Any others? Anyone else?
One of my favorite things about the development that's already happened is the bike paths. I'm really trying to get into biking to watch my environmental footstep, and that's just like a really nice way to incorporate it in a place I'm usually at most of the time. So just having that around the city really encourages me when it's nice out to get on my bike and go.
Just being a resident in downtown too. Speaking for that, I live in the Sibley building, like 5 blocks away from World of Inquiry School. The bike part of the project has been great in tying it into the Rock the Riverway project that's going on right now. I'm a big cyclist. I cycle all over the country in the summer, but in while I'm home, it's nice to have those bike accessible places where you can get on the river trail, or you can get to the canal trail, or you can just bomb around town to visit different businesses and get a coffee or things like that. Especially if you have a lot of people living downtown residentially, a lot of those people like to ditch the car, or at least have another mode of transportation via bike. So thinking about how we incorporate bike traffic into this type of project and funnel that bike traffic to.
Thanks, James. Back to the students for a second. Are there any other students who have any other thoughts about what you like or don't like about what's been filled in at what's been built on the filled in part of the inner loop so far? If not, that's okay. I'm just curious. I want to make sure all the students that would like to share something have an opportunity to do so.
I know that one of them wants to mention something about the fact that the Hart Street grocery store was closed because we had a really nice connection with Hart Street. The kids actually grew plants to sell at Hart Street, and that's been a huge loss to us.
Thank you.
I think I'd like to ask a question of the students, and that is, what kind of jobs could you see that would be actually supported in the inner loop that you would make you stay or come back to Rochester?
One more time, you cut it.
I'd like to know what kind of jobs you would like to see created in the area of the inner loop, so that you would be able to stay in Rochester or come back to Rochester after college, because we want you to come back. So what would attract you here? We should be thinking about in the inner loop.
Well, if you couldn't tell by now, I'm very passionate about what we can do for the environment to make it more sustainable for humans and wildlife living in the city. I'd like to see some partnerships with environmental firms and architecture to see how we can incorporate it to get a contemporary modern kind of look for the city. Like rooftop gardens are like a good way that I've seen that I've enjoyed to decrease the the black surface that's hitting the sun. I'd love to see some more partnerships, at least for my age group. I've noticed that there are a lot of partnerships for undergraduate students. So if we could be at that range to high school students, I would love to be a part of that.
I think also, I've kind of mentioned this previously, but keeping diversity in jobs and having jobs for all different like education levels, so we could sustain the diverse income levels as well.
To piggyback sort of like what Maeve said about diversity, I would kind of like to see more like black-owned business spring up around the inner loop as well. Try to have like more like a cultural like blending of different like multicultural like blending of different like stores, restaurants, etc. in the little inner loop area.
Susan, I think you're muted trying to talk.
Sorry, I think that had a good discussion about having lots of ethnic food around. And Sean and I were excited about that. Well, are there any other questions anyone has? Well, I would like to thank you all for taking time to come and participate.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. There's one question in the chat that just came up.
Thank you.
Can I read? So for the students, what are your hopes for the Interloop North project further away from World of Inquiry School? For example, further west toward and beyond the river. What should we as designers be thinking about?
Personally, like I know a lot of people who just in the past, they moved from the cities to the suburbs, and I want to create a foundation in the city that will attract people, as well as creating a place that I want to come back to. You know, you want to have a city where students, when they grow up, they want to give back to the community that they came from.
May I have a follow-up, Maeve? What would something like that be?
Creating just businesses, especially small businesses, and kind of staying away from chains as much as possible. Also, good residential areas where, and just I personally, I find diversity something at the top of my list wherever I'm looking, whether it be education or housing. I think that's something that we need to prioritize more, America as a whole.
To go off of what Maeve said, that question, I definitely like a lot of space and a lot of green space. So staying away from a lot of buildings and a lot of stuff, because if you go to the city of Rochester or even west of it, you don't see a lot of green space there, a lot of space where you can run around or just enjoy like the outside, like the feel of like an outside urban environment. You want to have that kind of feel. So just staying away from big, like tall buildings or like a lot of buildings and just keeping a lot of green space.
I have a question for the kids, the young adults. You mentioned that it really hurts to hear that you are an island, and then when you look at it on your map, that that your school is disconnected from our community, and you mentioned that you do partner with the YMCA. So when you think about the area around your school, what other organizations might you want to, with whom you might want to partner? You know, like Jiva. Do you have relationships with the Rochester the orchestra, the RPO?
Yeah, when we met, we definitely talked about this, like some of the schools that we talked about partnering with some local restaurants. We talked about Eastman School of Music and partnering with them because we definitely are a school that enjoys music. Yes, I think we also another one I would enjoy is the Science Museum or whatever, and partnering with them because there's a lot of cool information stuff you can get from there too.
I definitely think that like something that brings a lot of young adults together, regardless of their interests, is food. And I think learning how to create good food, not just like cheap stuff that isn't very healthy for you, could be something that I think a problem that kids in high school face is having passion, but not knowing what you're passionate for. And through the program with Suzanne Meyer and Sean Dunwoody, I originally was going into this just because I'd gotten an email as an invitation. But through this program, I became passionate about something I wouldn't have necessarily if I hadn't joined it. So I think it's just finding each kid a program that speaks to them. They might not even know what it is yet, but using high school as a place to experience different things and find what you are passionate about.
I also want to piggyback on Justice and Maeve, because our school does offer this intensives program where we partner with different local areas in the community. Like there's like I went to this community thing with local beat producer for my intensives, which was fun. But it's not all the time. It's only like 3 days out of the entire school year. So I feel like it's kind of disappointing that we don't have more opportunities to connect with these local creators and whatnot, especially since we're not too far away from like big names like Eastman, Jiva. I feel like we should just have more opportunities to connect with these people, the establishments around us.
I have a question for you guys, for you students, for you young scholars here.
Sean, quick,
One of our
Sean,
talks, we talked
Sean,
about.
real quick. I want to just check something with Kasim real quick. I want to make sure I understood something he said because I'm writing the note about it. Kasim, did you say like when you have an opportunity to visit with some folks, like I think you said a beat producer or something like that, those kind of occasional interactions, you would prefer more regular interaction, so something more immersive and ongoing versus a one shot or cameo type of visits? Is that, did I get that right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, thank you so much. I didn't want to walk away from that one not being 100% certain. Thanks.
I just want to ask you guys a question. We talked about this earlier in some of our talks about actually walking around downtown. Explain what that's like, being young people trying to go to, like you're trying to go to the commerce store, or you're trying to go out for lunch. Explain what that feels like on those streets and not having enough room on sidewalks. Explain some of that.
Pretty much
Personally, Cosme, you can go.
Okay. Pretty much walking down the streets is like an obstacle course every day, you know. Just to get to like some of our local like meals like Pepper Pot, I have to like make sure cross the street every 4 or 5 seconds just to make sure, I'm safe crossing down the street. I feel like with the inner loop, having, just direct access to these restaurants could be safer and much easier for us.
And I was just gonna say, walking closer to our school, there's more local businesses, but like further toward more like the bigger like buildings and stuff, it feels very vacant. Like past the Liberty Pole and stuff, it doesn't feel as lively. Like it doesn't. Most cities, there's a lot of people walking and stuff, but especially in the winter, there are few people out and about.
Thank you. We talked about going to, earlier you talked about going to the gardens. Who talked about that? Explain why that's so dangerous feeling going to the World of Inquiry garden that's not even near you. Can someone explain that?
Could you repeat the question?
Oh, I was earlier in the presentation. You spoke about the garden, the World of Inquiry garden, which is nowhere near the school, and someone said it's kind of dangerous. Can they explain that, please? What that danger is going to the garden?
I think that was Qasim who brought up that point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the route to the garden is so like it's not like fun. We have to go to this like street and we have to turn on this like alleyway and then we finally get to the destination in such an awkward position, like an awkward space that it's a kind of like a chore just to get around, walking to it. Like there's nothing, you can't really point out anything nice on the walk. It's just disappointing, really.
Can you explain that? Where do you start from and where do you end up? But like for some people who may not know, can you explain this visually where you're walking?
Well, yeah. So basically, we walk on South Street. Then we turn on this I forgot the name of the street, but it's not really a main street either. And then then we
Is
turn
it
on this
Lyndhurst?
like
Is it Lyndhurst? You have to go down.
Yeah.
yeah, Lyndhurst. I can't remember, but and then we go down Lyndhurst, and I think there's another. I can't remember street names, but there's another street we turn on to get to like the little parking area, sort of like in quotes parking area, but
Kasim, how long do you think it takes to walk from school to there?
5 minutes.
5 to 10 probably.
Yeah.
So from a teacher's perspective or educator's perspective, if you have a group of students that you want to take to utilize the school garden, right? Say I'm a 7th grade biology teacher and we're doing something on the water cycle or plant cycle, whatever we're doing it on. And I want to utilize the school garden. I walk over there, that takes 10 minutes. I walk back, that takes 10 minutes. Then I only have 10 to 15 minutes to really utilize the space because it's so far away and it's not directly connected with the school.
And going there, you have to go down Main. It seems as if you're not going down Main Street. Is that because it's just too much traffic?
Yeah, it's just too much traffic. But even then, there's nothing really appealing about you lose some like the appeal of walking because like the Lyndhurst isn't really a busy street. There's no like really interesting things to look out on the walk, so it just like loses a lot of allure.
And even just finding a close by bathroom is hard. I remember when I was at the garden, I can't go back to my school because I won't have a teacher's pass to get back in. So I have to walk to Delta Sonic, which is somewhat close by. But walking just even with a friend just to go to find a close bathroom is somewhat scary when I have to cross the street and pass by strangers on a decently lit street to just use the bathroom. It's quite frightening experience sometimes.
And maybe you could also talk a little bit about after school. Some people go to Wendy's because that's the only place to go to meet their parents. Can't go to school sports, or they don't go to sports. Talked a little bit about that.
Well, I for one, I go to swimming. I swim for the school, and I know our facility doesn't have a swimming pool, so every day there's a bus that comes and has to pick us up and drop us off to Freddie Thomas, and it's really tedious. It would be nice if we could have some sort of like in-house swimming facility. And on the Wendy's note, the route to Wendy's is just walking on the main street is hard. It's not the best, especially with groups of like people. When you're in a group, it's like kind of dangerous. So I just wish we had like more safer routes of like to eat basically.
Or even just our school's policy where you cannot stay after school unless you're studying or doing a sport. Because we are K through 12 building, elementary is let out later than secondary. So you have to stay in the front office until your parent comes, or you have to leave the building. And then just leaving the building doesn't give us a lot of time or just really anywhere to go besides Wendy's. Some people have turned to corner stores. Some people try and go to the YMCA if they are offered that pass because of the partnership we have with them for gym. Other than that, you're kind of just wandering around the city with a few of your friends. And after a while, when the snow really starts to settle in, you can't do that anymore. And you have to go home and you don't have that social interaction that we would really like to have.
It is definitely at 58 for secondary. It's like, unless you're an athlete, once school is over, you hop on a bus and you go home. It's not a community space where some schools where there are rec centers attached, kids stay after. They do all sorts of programs from athletics to culinary. And I wish 58 could have those same opportunities. So just like even a safety thing, having kids know there's a safe place for them to go after school without having to pay for a membership or anything.
Maeve and Anaya, can you guys talk about, because I understand like even if you're not an athlete, you're limited in your opportunities, but can you talk about how it is at 58 as an athlete? Because I'm sure that presents some challenges to you as well.
There is like, as an athlete personally, you sometimes feel a lack of pride because we do so few sports out of our school. Like majority of our sports, especially for girls, are partnered with other schools. So you don't really get to wear like your school's name on your chest. We often go to Freddie Thomas, Franklin, East High for all different types of sports. So it would be nice to kind of have the sense of a home field to play off of.
Yeah, and that's why the sports zone is just a really important factor for us, especially since a lot of students are in sports. Just having that sense of pride where we can have our own homecoming and our cheerleaders and football players aren't separated into different teams would be nice. Another problem that we are kind of facing is athletes leaving the building for food. So because we have to stay and wait to get bused out to other schools, we usually have to wait until about 3 to 3:30 until our bus comes, which is about an hour after school ends for us. So we do have a vending machine and a few snack options at our school, but as our bodies are growing, we will need more than that. So just going to like try and find options where we can go and eat really quickly and then hurry back to make sure we don't miss our bus for our athletics is a challenge, especially since we're not necessarily really allowed to leave because of the safety concern that it offers. Once we leave the campus and come back in, it becomes a safety concern for us as athletes and what we may be bringing back to the school.
To go off what Maeve and Anaya were saying is like having something like close by that we can walk to after school and like hang out, or somewhere to eat after school, something close that we don't have to cross the main street or risk getting hit by a car, somewhere that we can just go after school. And like I haven't been able to do sports because of COVID this year, but even as when I went to the night where I learned more about the school, is that we partner with a lot of different schools, so giving us that space for like our own sports zone would like sense of pride of World of Inquiry.
Thank you. Go ahead, Suzanne.
No, I was going to say, I want to just, are there any other questions? I know we are now at 4:39. And, we don't want to take much more of your time. But I think that what we've demonstrated here is the fact that with these particular students are really terrific. They're all interested in contributing to the school, to this project, et cetera. And we hope they'll continue with us with Hinge and volunteer for any kind of internships that are out there. Exactly. I think we've learned more from them than they have from us, and we hope to continue that partnership. I would like to ask Kim if sometime it would be possible for you to demo to them your presentation about all the things that you're doing, and maybe even talk about some of the analysis that you've had, that we could do that, particularly have another additional, so that you get to talk, and then maybe that would spur on some other conversations.
Yeah, Suzanne, I actually jotted that down in my notes to reach out afterwards. So I'm glad you suggested it. I think that'd be a great idea. I'd love the opportunity to have some more time to pick at the brains of all the students. So that sounds great to me. Let's work on that.
I want to say to everyone that Sean and I started this about a year ago, and we talked with Gina Cruz, and she helped us with the students, and Gabby is here also, they were also helping us and getting the next step. Community building and getting people involved in any project is a very long, sometimes arduous process. And we can't thank you enough for participating and encouraging. And now we have this and we can go forward because this should not stop. So thank you all. I hope you learned a lot, Kim, and I hope that you'll take a lot of this input into making this a great project. And if there's a next step that we can do, we would love to do that. So thank you all for coming. And
thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
you were terrific. It was a great presentation.
Great job, everyone.
We will be talking about all these ideas, and then we're going to come back to you and listen again, share our thoughts and listen to you all again. So these are great ideas. Rest assured, we're going to be talking about all of them. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes. One of the things that we learned when we first started this, that on the Inner Loop East, that the school felt that they had not been able to contribute. So this is a great, as we say, we have to listen to everyone, and thank you for doing that.
Thank you.